Do you want to hold back a little bit and just give them all the good stuff, you know? Or do you want to show them that, like, yeah, things were not as perfect as they looked?
Hello and welcome to the Jocelyn Moore Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn Moore, and as always, we're here to inform, inspire, and entertain with dynamic conversations that matter. Today we're diving into From Crown to CEO, my journey from mom entrepreneur, million-dollar business owner. I guess Jessica Danel, a former childcare entrepreneur, podcaster, and author. Welcome, Jessica. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate you having me on today.
It's going to be fun, right?
I know it.
It's going to be fun, 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 fun. Okay, let's get to it. Jessica, what's the craziest thing your kids have ever said or done? The craziest.
There's a lot of crazy things. I have a 32, 24, and a 15-year-old. So
Really?
it's hard.
Wow.
It's hard to think of just one. Okay, so I used to teach preschool. And for somebody else, I used to own my own business, but before I did, I had was working for another school, and my son was in the class next to me. He was in the 3-year-olds class, and I was in the 4-year-old class. And the principal or whatever director calls me out of my room and says, "Miss Jessica, can you come to the office, please? We have a problem." And I'm like, "Oh gosh, what did you do now?" Because my son is, he was a little. I don't know how to, he was super smart, but he was always into something, you know? And, I said, "Okay, what happened?" He goes, "Well, Parker, took a block and he, something wasn't going his way and he threw it on the ground and he goes, 'Damn it.'" And I go, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Parker. Why did you say that word?" And the director goes, "Well, where did you hear that word, sweetheart?" And he goes, "Mommy says it." So I was like, oh, busted. So, yeah, my son heard "damn it" from me. And so, of course, when he was frustrated, he used the word. I mean, he used it in context correctly, but when he said "mommy says it," I was like, crap. I was like, busted by my boss. You know,
real quick. I used to tell my niece when she was little, she's like 40 now, we would go out and I would tell her, do not say a word, because just like they would call it, they would say the truth. I said, do not say anything. You keep your mouth closed, because you just don't know what's going to come out of their mouths, right? I said,
I have another funny story. Funny story, but it's not me. It was my little sister, but it's very funny thing that kids in their minds think of. My little sister, when she was little, she put some yarn around her neck and she had it on really, really tight. And my mom was really worried. She's like, "Oh my gosh, Hillary, I can't get this off." And my sister was crying. "Ah." And my mom's like, "Don't ever put this around your neck again. Don't ever put anything around your neck. You could choke yourself." And my mom was getting like stern with her, but like still concerning, and not too stern, but more like just don't ever, like trying to, slap their hand, like don't touch the stove kind of thing. And my little sister was crying. She's like, "I'm so sorry, Mommy." And my mom goes, "Sorry doesn't cut it." And
Right.
she goes, "But scissors will."
True. That's so cute. They're cute.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then my mom, of course, she just started laughing so hard. She's like, "Stop it. I'm going to pee my pants."
That was
don't make
so
me laugh.
cute. That was
So-
so cute. Now let's talk about your memoir, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. Such a bold title, right? Okay. What inspired you to write it, and what do you hope the readers take away from it?
Well, bucket list is just basically that. It's my bucket list of things that my counselor in college said, "Well, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'm like, "A mom and a wife." I didn't have like these aspirations. And he goes, "Well, what are some things you want to do in life? Like a bucket list." He says, "Write them down and start thinking of things you want to do in your life and, create a bucket list." And the Redneck Girl comes because I'm from California. So people don't think of redneck from California, but I come from most of California is farming town, if you really think about it, besides the areas that are all coastal, but inland is a lot of farming. And I come from a small farming town. And, we were always considered like less than, like we were the low class or low end of our area because we lived in this rednecky area. And it's just because redneck, when you're out on the farm and you're working the farm, your neck is red from the sun, and that's where it comes from. So that's what we are. We're rednecks, I guess. And so I wrote the book about my crazy life because I've had so many things happen. I'm 52 years old, so I'm not terribly old, but I'm not that young. But I've had so many crazy things happen that I tried to jam it all into my chapters. And there's stories inside of the story. I digress into another thing, like I'm talking about this, and then all of a sudden I tell you about how my babysitter robbed us, just all this weird stuff. And just these tiny little stories inside the stories that you'll just know everything about me more than you probably wanted to know. but But it's a funny, and actually it's funny too, because it's a very easy read. And how I'm talking to you now is basically how I talk in the book. And so it's just an easy read. I think it's a good book. I really do. I don't read a lot. And I've had a lot of people say, man, I found a little piece of myself in your book. Like, I really enjoyed it. And so I've had great reviews so far. And, I just think it's a good book. I mean, I'm trying to toot my own horn. Don't get me wrong, but I do think it's a book that a lot of people will be able to relate to. And it's, like I said, it's an easy read. No big words.
When you said people find themselves in the book, then it would make me want to read on and on. What else? What else? What else? How are we connected in ways?
Yeah.
Right? That's great. That's great. It's going to be a fun book to read, I know. Just talking to you, I can tell it's going to be,
Well, the book starts off, my first chapter. I try to go chronological, kind of like how my life proceeded. But one of the things that stood out for me when I was growing up was something that happened in high school. And I start off with that. And I'm not too nice to my mother through the book, but I do talk about, like, my mom had a lot of struggles in life because of my father. And then also she was injured and was almost like basically handicapped my whole life, all through high school. And so there was all these challenges my mother went through, and I kind of don't treat her so kindly in the book. But then I come to realize a lot at the end of the book that my mom did like the best for having what she went through with my dad, which I did never realize at the time until later on in life. I looked back and I'm like, damn, my poor mother,
I guess as you get older, you think back. Right, that's what happened. You think at that moment in the situation, you don't think that way until years later.
But also, when I'm writing the book, I'm not thinking about I'm not really analyzing. I'm just talking about how I felt in the moment. Okay. And I'm giving you guys like if I'm young, you're going to get some juvenile type thinking of how I was thinking in the moment during those times. And I just went through the whole book that way, and it didn't dawn on me. And it was like an aha moment. And I don't know why, maybe I'm just blonde. I don't know. And at the end of the book, I'm like, my God, I have to really give it to my mother. She did a great job raising 4 kids. They're all went off to college, and they all did all this, and I'm trying to compare it to how I am as a mom. And I'm like, damn, she did good, like I give it to her for all that she had to go through. So, but in the very first page, I cuss at my mom, and I wasn't back then, you don't cuss at your parents. And I said a bad word to my mother, and it's right on the first page. And so, one little story, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but when I was giving my book to my friends to read before I gave it to the publisher, I wanted to get an idea if it's okay, if it's a good book. And so I gave it to it's called Postnet. It's kind of like a Kinko's or something where they print it, and then you can mail it out there. And I left it there, and a couple days later I come back to pick it up to mail it, and they said like 3 or 4, there's 4 people there, all of them said, I hope you don't mind, but we downloaded your book. and I'm like, it's not even been edited yet, like by professional.
Wow.
And I told them, I go, oh my gosh, I haven't edited, it's probably got a lot of bad spelling or whatever. And they go, no, we love it. And all of them were different. There was a young man, a 20-something girl, and an older lady, and another guy. And they said, this is so good. She goes, are you going to give it to your mom to read? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, because they only got to like chapter 3 or something. And I was like, no, it's okay. Wait, get to the whole book. And it's okay. My mom read it and she loved it. So, but in the very beginning, you think that like, oh my God, can you imagine her poor mother, and, but that was my first review, and it hadn't even really come out. Well, it was still a draft. So
Let me ask you this question. That's what you need, motivation. When you were growing up, did your mother ever say to you, I hear parents say this, you wait till you grow up and have kids and you see how it is. Has that
well, my
ever
mother,
happened
and I
to
say it in the I say it in the book. She says, "I hope you have a daughter just like you," as if to curse me or
Mhm.
something, like,
Oh,
and
I was wondering.
yeah, and she told me too, like, she always felt bad that she said that because, you know, she just thought that she tried. It wasn't a curse, but she did say it, and she goes, "I think I cursed you." I'm like, no, it's okay.
Well, that's the way she felt at the moment. Now you talked about uh a little bit personal and painful stories. Now, was there a chapter you found hard to write? I just want to bring this up before you talk about it. I was doing some extra research about you. I was telling you earlier, and about, can I say about the school shooting?
Mhm.
Was that part of
Yeah.
in the chapter? Could you talk about
Well,
that?
there's two chapters that were very difficult to write. And I don't talk about one of them. I'll tell you about the school shooting in just a second. But one I don't ever really talk about on a podcast. But I'll tell you what the chapter's called, and hopefully people will read it and they'll see. It's called "Shh, Pretend You're Asleep." And so that chapter is it was very hard to like put it out there. It's like, when you're telling your story, do you really want to be vulnerable and be like honest about your life, or do you want to hold back a little bit and just give them all the good stuff, or do you want to show them that
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, things were not as perfect as they looked. So that's that one chapter. And then my high school was like one of the very first high schools in America to have a school shooting back in 1992, May 1st. It didn't get notoriety because the Rodney King verdict came out on the April 29th, and then the riots, right?
Oh.
And then the next day was the riots, and then the next day was my school shooting. And so what happened was, like right now we get our cable news, or our news cycle goes really fast. There's something happening all the time, and they'll cover stuff like this, but then they'll move on to the next. Well, back then they didn't cover stuff like this as much as they do now. And so back then no one talked about it. And I think had they talked about it, maybe Columbine wouldn't have happened in 2000. So, so a gentleman, well, we knew him. He was a high school student, graduated 2 years prior, and he was, or 3 years prior, I think. And he didn't graduate with this class because this teacher, he didn't pass civics. And you have to pass civics to graduate with your class. And so this young man didn't graduate with his class, and he was having problems losing his job, I think, or his girlfriend, and all the things that were going wrong in his life, he thought stemmed from not being able to graduate from high school. And so he decided, you have to think about it too. Back in 92, there wasn't Call of Duty, and there wasn't shoot 'em up games and Nintendo games about killing people or any of that stuff. Even the movies were soft. You didn't have very harsh movies back then. They were all feel good and everything,
Uh-huh.
And he grew dark in his heart, and he went to our school armed, and killed one teacher and 3 of my friends. And then he shot 9 other people, brutally shot them, like shoulders off, like blown off shoulders. I mean, just devastated people. And then he held 80 people hostage for 12 hours. And they negotiated his surrender over time. But think about this. Some of the kids were upstairs that he was holding hostage, and he would make them go downstairs and look for people that were hiding. And if they did not return, if they did not return
He would
with
kill someone.
somebody, or
Uh-huh.
themselves, that he would shoot one of their friends. And so they had to think, do I run, or do I turn in somebody, or do I go back and say I didn't find anybody, or do I run? And so a lot of them just went back up there. Some of them, I think a few ran. And, but can you imagine a 14, 15-year-old kid having to decide whether they're going to go back up and be held hostage by gunpoint or running for safety? And so that's kind of like how that happened. And then, I talk about my place in the story and my family's place in the story. And I couldn't write the chapter without crying a lot.
Of course.
And then even rewrite, because you know how when you write a book, you got to rewrite it, like you have to reread it like so many times, you know, over and over and over again. And every time I would cry. And just thinking about the things, to me, it made me cry. I mean, hopefully it does. I mean, it might bring readers to tears, just thinking about it, because they're getting a more of an insight of what it's like to be a part of something like that. But yeah, it was terrible. It was a terrible thing. And we commemorated at our town commemorates it like on Facebook, and we talk about it a lot. It happened 30 years ago, or more than 30 years ago, I think 35. Oh, gosh, I don't know. I can't do math, but it happened a long time ago. And but we still try to remember it every year. And I did a podcast on it with somebody that was there, and so we have a different stories. And yeah, I'll probably do another story, a follow up on that with other survivors. And it's it's one of those things. It's just really terrible that this happens in our nation,
It's still going on. Well,
I know.
whatever happened to the shooter?
Well, he surrendered. He was arrested, and he's been on death row. Death rows ever since. And he lost all of his appeals. But, short of, they just don't ever execute anybody in California. So he's still around.
Okay. I think he was 20? Was he 20? I think I read maybe 20. Maybe I'm wrong. I was
20 or 22. Yeah, because he was
young.
I think he was 22 or 20, something like that. He was pretty young. Yeah.
That's why I tell kids. So I teach Sunday school, things like that. I tell the kids about making fun of someone. You think someone is sweet. You just never know what that person might do.
What they're capable of.
That's right.
Yep.
It can snap.
Yeah, because we talk about him. I talk about him because everybody knows him, and I knew him. He was somebody that was not on anybody's radar. He was definitely a calming person. You never knew he had struggles, with his grades or anything. And he just went with the flow, and we all ate lunches around each other, and he didn't seem like anybody that would come and do that. He actually seemed really mellow. But as you get older and your hormones change and you leave high school and you're becoming a man, things are different, and your mind is probably not all formed, or it's just finishing being formed. And I don't know, people change. I'm so sorry. That was such a downer.
No. Things need to be heard. It need to be heard. You need to tell your story. We can't hide this, Sometimes it's things we might not want to hear, but we should hear.
Right. Agreed.
You want to be heard. Okay. Now, don't feel bad. On the flip side, what's one mistake or redneck girl moment you can laugh about, but back then it was like a disaster?
I mean, I don't know. I have one chapter that I laugh. I think it's my funniest chapter, and it's called "I Just Had to Do It." I know it's terrible, but I think it's my favorite chapter, actually. And okay, so you know how when you're in high school you change, people trade jackets, or someone let you wear a jacket or whatever.
Right.
Somebody let me wear a jacket, and long story short, I read something I shouldn't have that was in her pocket, which and apparently I didn't fold it back into that particular envelope size little tiny thing. In high school you fold your little notes. Well, I didn't fold it right the way to get it back, and so she knew I read it. She wanted to fight me after school, and I apologized because I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I know you should be mad at me. And I talk about all of the parts of the story, but no, she wanted to fight me. So, and it was my fault that I breached her trust by reading a note I shouldn't have. And the note said something, about I'm pregnant and should I keep it kind of thing. So it was kind of heavy. And of course I gave it to my friends and we all read it. I mean, I was just a brat. I was a brat. And so she wanted to fight me, and it was 2 weeks before graduation. And had I fought her at school, I would have been suspended and I wouldn't have been able to walk with my friends for graduation. And I've never fought anybody, and I didn't want to like get in a fight because I'm more of a shit talker kind of a girl instead of
Right.
a real like fighting kind of a person, you know? And I apologized to her in front of all this whole crowd of people. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, I'm going to fight you. So I had that 3:00 high moment, you know, like that after school special where they're like, at 3:00, I'm going to get you. And it all ended up at my house. And it was just a crazy thing. There was hundreds of kids lined up on my street, and it was a crazy little thing, but I just had to do it, is what I said. There was police involved and a bunch of stuff happened. So you have to read the chapter. It's very, very funny. Yeah, I didn't get in trouble, just put it that way. But there's a lot that could have happened to me. I could have got my butt kicked too, by the way. But anyways, that is one of those things that just kind of just didn't feel like didn't feel right. None of it did. Like fighting is not good. None of it felt right. And it was just like, to me, it was a disaster. And the fact that it all worked out for me, I mean, I was lucky. But I think it's my funniest chapter, the way I wrote it. I think it's funny.
Mm. It's probably, you think this is a crazy question, but did you ever later down the road become friends? Sometimes it happens that way.
Well, you know, I left home I left my actual home before I was 18, and I talk about all that in the book. But I I left the town, and I never fostered friendships with many people from high school, except for when Facebook came around. Then I have like 300 friends from high school that I'm friends with still, which is great. But I didn't foster friendship. Now she's an advocate for marijuana or something. I don't know. I don't know. Somebody said, you know that girl, and I'm like, yeah. And I don't call her by the true name in the book. I call her Kathy, you know, which isn't her name, but same thing with I have an arch nemesis, and I call her Kay in the book, but that's not her real name. And she was my neighborhood arch nemesis. It was crazy. And so no, I think my friends are like, yeah, she's trying to advocate for marijuana or something. So she did like this huge YouTube video, and it got some, I don't know. I think she was running for office or something too for California at one time because she wanted the marijuana. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
But
we're
no,
going to read that in the
don't know
book.
her.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. You built a $1 million childcare business while raising not one, two, but three kids. How did you balance entrepreneurship and motherhood? And why did you decide to walk away? What was it
So
about?
I have three kids. One's my stepdaughter. She's Jordan. She's 32. And so I'm a stepmom. And with being a stepmom comes a whole bunch of stuff. And the mom, her mother, was terrible to us. And I talk about it in the book. In fact, I was in labor in court in Long Beach, and I had to drive 4 hours to get home to deliver. And then my husband barely made it. They wouldn't let him do a continuance, even though I was literally trying to give birth in the courtroom. And, but they, did not give him a continuous. He barely made it to 15, 20 minutes before my son popped out. So I talk about being a stepmom and all the step parenting type of stuff, and about court and all the stuff that goes with that. And then, so then I had my son and my daughter. Well, first I had my son, and then I started a family daycare when I moved to Bakersfield. And then I was just always busy. And my husband's like, let's build on to the house and let's make you your own preschool room. And I was like, okay. So then we did that. And I went from a small license to a family large license, hired somebody to help me. And then I had such a waiting list, and I went to purchase a school at a church, and it's not like a religious school, but I had the ability to rent from this church, and it had a playground. The whole thing was perfect. And so then I had a staff of 8, and then again I filled it, and I just was rocking and rolling, we had a long waiting list, and everybody that toured the school joined the school. And then somebody from my neighborhood that I used to watch their kids said, I'm buying a commercial property and I have plans. If you want, we'll build you a school in the corner, because he couldn't fit in the corner of the lot. He couldn't figure what to put there. And he says, I could put you a square in the front, and then your playground can be the triangle area. It's kind of awkward. It's like real awkwardy. And he said it'll be a 10,000 square foot building and a 30,000 square foot play yard. And all you need to do is pay for the inside, the shell, like fixings and all the finishings, and we'll build it the way you want it. And then you have to build the backyard and put the playground in and the grass and all that stuff. And so that's what I did. I got a loan from SBA. I didn't know what I was doing. Of course, I wasn't educated or anything. So I went and I went online, and I'm like, how to do a business plan. Like I Googled it. And I created a business plan. I got a loan from SBA, which is Small Business Association, for $700,000. And I designed and built the inside of the building. And my building was unique. There's not one like it out there. And it was built with my specifications. And then I put $100,000 of toys in the inside, and then I did $100,000 in the backyard. And I pre-sold the school so that the first day we had 140 students on day one. So can you imagine starting a business, not just sitting there and waiting for somebody to come in? No. We had 140 students on day one. So I had a staff of 28, and I had vendors, and I had cleaning crews, and a cook, and a van driver, and the whole thing. And our first year, we grossed $1 million. And so then, and that was in 2008, when the economy was starting to go down, And so we were rocking and rolling for the first year, then the second year, and then I was pregnant. I found I was pregnant. I talk about that in the book. And then my daughter was born with special needs. She needed open heart surgery at 5 months. And so when she was born, and also she was in the NICU, the delivery was terrible. I talk about the delivery. I mean, it was almost like the most horrific story of a delivery you could ever hear. And so I talk about that in the book. It was traumatizing for me and my daughter. And then, but she needed me there. So literally I just laid in bed, she was attached to my boob, and I let her feed and I didn't go anywhere. I just let my school, let the teachers take care of it, the directors and everything. Right. And then, I went from 188 students to 88 students, because the economy was so bad. So when daddy's off work, he doesn't need daycare. He stays home with the kids, And so that's what happened. A lot of people were leaving, and I was injecting money into the school, and it was becoming really difficult. And so the landowner said, I want to buy your school. I've been wanting to buy it since you opened it. And we negotiated, and I ended up selling it to the landowner so that I can be there for my daughter, because she was going to need recovery. And we later, during that same time, I found out she had cerebral palsy, and she has an intellectual disability, and she's autistic, and she just has all these poor little things. And she heart issue that she definitely needs another surgery coming up soon. So she'll have them throughout her whole life. It's not just something she had as an infant. It's called tetralogy of Fallot. And these people that have this tetralogy of Fallot will continue to have surgeries throughout their whole life. And so I just knew that I just needed to be there for her, and sold the business to the guy. But he didn't pay me everything he was supposed to. We were in mediation for a while, and he was going to bleed me dry because his brother was an attorney, and it was he did me dirty. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He did me dirty. And so I had to just, whatever. I put it out of my mind now. I can't drive by that street, though, because I get sick to my stomach. I'm so pissed, But I didn't sell it for $1 million. I was making $1 million. It was $1 million business, but I didn't sell it for $1 million. I wish I did. But then after that, I ended up going back to school when my daughter was 3, and she was in like a special class, and she was not in school. Where she was in school, I was in school. And then when she was home, I was with her until daddy got home, and then I went to night school, and I got my bachelor's, and then eventually got my master's degree. And then now I'm doing broadcast media for a local television station. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yes. We're going to talk about that. I mean, I applaud you for staying with your baby.
Yeah.
I applaud
Yeah,
you
she
for
needed
that.
me.
Yes, the baby needs you more than anything else.
Right.
And what the guy did to you, he's going to get his. Well, okay, let's talk about your podcast now, all
For
right?
sure.
Okay. Let's talk. Yeah. It's called Just Saying, short for Jessica. Okay.
Yes.
What is your main motivation behind it, and who is your core audience?
Yeah, so it's Just Saying with Jessica Danel. That's the whole title. Because there's another person out there with Just Saying, so I couldn't. I
Oh,
don't
really?
know. Yeah, so I had to put Just Saying with Jessica Danel. And so the motivation was my book, actually, because I was like, well, who's going to talk about my book? Well, this one is. So how do I do that? And I thought, well, my podcast or my book has so many different chapters with so many different things. Drug abuse. Well, not that I did drug abuse, but, people with addiction. There's like, if you're suffering or your kids have addiction. So I was thinking I could do podcasts about like navigating through your kids through that, or I don't know, there's just all these things that families go through. And I thought, man, I've been through a lot. So I can talk about all the things that I've been through because of my book, and I can try to promote my book that way. But then I started getting, it's geared towards women, but it's also for families. I do dads. Well, I had a lot of dad podcast episodes, and I'm just finding the stories to be interesting, and they're like kind of interesting to me, and I think they're interesting to other people. I've interviewed so many different type of people all over the world that it's just becoming so fun for me, and we just talk about parenting and life and relationships and books that are coming out, and fiction books and reality and non-reality, and programs for parents, coaching to get your kids off the couch, all kinds of just different things out there. And so I'm having fun with it. I think it's a funny thing. I tried, just like we're doing, having a very casual conversation, and I interject some stupid stories. Sometimes I go off on a tangent, but I think it's fun. And by the end of the podcast, everyone's like, I had such a good time. And I thought, me too. And I'm like, I'm hoping people listening did too, because, everybody that's listening to a podcast usually want to be a fly on the wall between a conversation that we're having. And I just want to have fun. I want the listeners to have fun too.
And I'm sure there are women who just can't wait till you come on. It's an outlet for them. You just don't know. And
I hope so.
And it's really helping them too. You just don't know how many people you are helping.
Yeah. I talk about like I'm not in my weight. Like I don't feel like I'm a skinny girl in a fat girl body is what I feel like. And so I talk about my weight problems, and I'm like, I just talk about a lot of things, and I'm very open about my life and my marriage, and I've been married 28 years, and I talk about it. And I have kids of all different, like they're all different generations. So I got a millennial, a Gen Xer, and I think Alpha, whatever my 15-year-old is, I got like a gamut of kids, and I'm living through all their different personalities. It's just nuts.
A lot of personalities to go through, huh?
Yeah,
now,
for
Jessica,
sure.
Referring back to your memoir, okay, Bucket List for a Redneck Girl. If your memoir was made into a movie, who would you want to play you? What actress and why?
Well, I totally believe that my book should be a Netflix movie, because when I was younger, people said I looked like Goldie Hawn.
Oh, okay.
When she was younger. So I would want Kate Hudson to play me.
Oh,
her
daughter. Her daughter, right?
Yeah, that's her daughter.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like Kate Hudson to play the younger version of me, I think. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds good. Okay. Now it's closing time. I hate to say it. Okay.
Closing time.
I know. All right. Now, what do I want to ask you about that? Okay. From everything that you have experienced, what does success mean to you now? From everything that's going on in your life.
Being able to get the laundry done while I'm doing a podcast meeting and working 2 jobs at one time. Yeah, if I can get my laundry done and get the dishes done and make dinner, that's a good day. fend for yourself is something we do a lot around here sometimes lately because I'm so busy. But I don't know. Success is just staying married and working on your relationships and your kids being happy and healthy and putting money away in my 401k so that I can pay for my medication when I get older.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this girl probably will need a lot. So, we're just trying to put money away for our future and decide what our next bucket list would be is moving out of California and getting maybe to a place where there's some water or something where we can live near like a lake or a pond or an ocean or something. And so that's kind of like where we're at now. We're in the last stages of our life where we're like, where do we want to retire?
I know. Well, you just so busy, and when you decide to retire, you would be busier. Let me tell you,
I know.
there's a such thing. You'd be really busy.
My husband's ready to retire in the next few years, a couple years, and I've got another 10 years to go or more than that now. And so he gets to retire and I don't. So he does not know. He does not want to be home. He needs to be at work because if he's home, he's going to have to do a lot to pick up the slack. Just saying. Just saying, honey. No,
but the thing is, when you retire, it's not you retire. Maybe retire from the job, that particular job, but you're moving on to another career that you really, really want to do. Okay, let's go to projects. Time is going by. So what's next for you, Jessica? And how can people follow you, purchase a book, and contact you and all that good stuff?
I just got done writing a book. I wrote a romance novel.
Oh.
It's kind of got a little thriller in it too. It's like a hybrid. It's about an ER nurse and a hot firefighter. Oh man, it's good. And there's some spicy parts. It's like 49 Shades of Grey. I'm going to write, it's going to be a 3-part trilogy. So I'm going to probably write the other 2 parts before I send it to a publisher or self-publish. I think I might go that route. So that's kind of like what I'm doing now. And then I'm still, I'm doing all my own editing and all my own stuff for the podcast. It takes a lot of work. So I'm doing that. And I have 2 jobs. So I work for a TV station and a radio company. They're both 8-hour jobs during the day, but I'm able to balance them without any issue.
Whatever you do is going to be great. I know it. With your personality and everything you're doing, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. And one more thing. You can find me on justsaying.net. That's JESSSAYING.net. And you go there and you can go to podcasts and scroll down and see all my podcast episodes and the ones that are coming in the future. There's also little shorts. And then you can also go to all my, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X. I'm on all the things. So you can go and and YouTube. You can find my podcast on YouTube, at Spotify, iHeart, all the places you can find a podcast. So go there and like and subscribe and be part of my community and email me if you want to be on my show. I'm cool with that.
Thank you. Well, okay. Well, we will talk later, Jessica. Thank you so much. Bye now.
Thank you. All right.
For our viewers at home watching, if you like what you see, subscribe to the Jocelyn Moore Show. Want to be a guest on our show? Head over to our website, www.jmentertainment.info. On the homepage, click on About and follow directions to be a guest. If you have any questions about today's show or past or future shows, just click Contact on our website and submit a message. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care and please keep watching.